Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we are going to start Unit 1, Our Settlers Society and Steppers Economy. First of all, introduction about the unit. Canada is the largest country in the Western Hemisphere and second largest in the world. Today it is a constitutional monarchy, a federal state and parliamentary democracy with two official languages, two systems of law, with 10 provinces and three territories each, with its own capital city. This geographical and political shape of Canada has developed during the course of thousands of years. The present process of development of Canadian entity is traced back to about 1,000 years, when Europeans started coming and settling here. It is because of that it came to be known as settlers' colony. The first settlers were French and the English, who established their colonies with English emerging victors to control the large areas, both in terms of geography and population. Diversity is the keynote of Canada. Its land includes fertile plains suitable for agriculture, vast mountain ranges, lakes and rivers, and vast forests. Canada has been a self-governing colony since 1867. It rose to the status of an independent state after its participation in the World War I and achieved de jure independence with the status of Westminster in 1931. Established by two historically opposed people, enriched by various cultures, languages, and religions, and marked by a geography itself highly diversified, Canada today is one of the most respected liberal democracies in the world. Let us have a look at its development to this position and the evolution of its socio-economic structure. First of all, we have look at the land. Canada, situated in the North American continent, is the second largest country in the world, occupying a land mass of 99,776 10 square kilometer. To the south, Canada shares a 8892 kilometers boundary with the United States of America. To the north, Arctic Iceland come within 800 kilometers of the North Pole. Canada's neighbor across the Arctic Ocean is Russia. Because of the harsh northern climate, only 12% of the land is suitable for agriculture. Thus, most of the population live within a few hundred kilometers of the southern border, where the climate is milder in a long, thin band stretching between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. It has been estimated that Canada has 1/7 of the world's fresh water. In addition to the Great Lakes, Canada has many large rivers and lakes. Forest covers about half of Canada's total land area. Canada is divided into 7 regions, each with a very different landscape and climate. These are the Pacific Coast, the Cordillera, the Pariars, the Canadian Shield, the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence lowlands, the Atlantic provinces, Appalachian region, and Arctic. Within these regions are Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories. The provinces are Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. The 3 territories are the Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Nunavut. Now, discovery of Canada. The earliest discovery of Canada as the New World, according to the history of Canada and Canadians, was made by Norse seafarers known as Vikings. There are no written historical records of their arrival and settlement. The vague accounts of their exploits are drawn from stories handed down by the word of mouth through generations. In AD 1000, Leif Erikson became the first European to land in North America. According to sagas, this was the first of many Norse voyages to the eastern shore of the continent. A colony was established in what the Vikings described as Vinland, identified in 1963 as being on the northmost tip of Newfoundland. According to recorded history, discovery of North America is linked to Christopher Columbus' arrival in 1492. In that year, Columbus landed here looking for a way to China. He and many others thought that there must be a way to reach China by sailing west instead of around Africa. Long before Europeans discovered North America, the land was inhabited by the people now called Aboriginals or Indians, also by some First Nations. Now let us see who are the Aboriginals. There are many theories to explain how the Aboriginals as First Nations arrived in North America. Most anthropologists believe that they migrated over the Bering Sea from Siberia 10,000 to 30,000 years ago. It is believed that they used a land bridge to cross from Siberia into Alaska, which had formed during the Ice Age. Aboriginal peoples traveled across the continent and developed different customs and languages depending on where they settled. Christopher Columbus misnamed them Indians in 1492 when he thought he had arrived in India. Thus, when the European explorers and settlers arrived, Canada was populated by a diverse range of Aboriginal people who, depending on the environment, lived nomadic and settled lifestyles, were hunters, fishermen, or farmers, were warlike or peaceful. They shared and continue to share a deep and spiritual relationship with the land and the life it supports. Each First Nation culture had distinctive spiritual beliefs and ceremonies. many of which have been carried down through the generations by elders in an oral tradition. They were trading everything from copper, tools, and pottery. Aboriginal people were eager to trade for European goods. They did not have iron making technology, so needed to trade for them. The things European wanted most was furs. Aboriginal peoples became partners in the fur trade and in exploitation of Canada. Presently, about 3% of Canadians belong to one or more of the three Aboriginal groups recognized by the Constitution Act 1982: North American Indian, Métis, and Inuits. Of this percentage, about 69% are North American Indian, 26% Métis, and 5% Inuits. You will know about them more in a separate unit. Now the next point is arrival of early European settlers. As informed above, in 1492 Christopher Columbus landed in North America, looking for a way to China. Thereafter, in 1497, an Italian named John Cabot sailed west of Bristol, England, intent on finding a new trade route to the Orient for his patron, King Henry VII of England. This voyage led to the discovery of the eastern shores of Canada. Cabot was an confident of Columbus had been that a new seaway was now open to Asia. On a second voyage the following years, Cabot explored the coast of North America, touching at various points not too clearly charted, from Baffin Island to Maryland. The Cabot voyages gave England a claim by right of discovery of an indefinite area of eastern North America. In 1524, King Francis I of France sent a Florentine navigator, Giovanni da Verrocchio, on a voyage of reconnaissance overseas. Vejono explored the eastern coastline of North America from North Carolina to Newfoundland, giving France too some claim to the continent by right of discovery. In 1534, Jacob Courtier also set sail from France, hoping to find the Northwest Passage. This was an official exploring expedition, and its immediate result was a report for the French king about the lands he had seen and the people he had met. Next year, Cartier returned as leader of a new expedition and reached villages near the present site of the cities of Quebec and Montreal. In 1541, Cartier led his third expedition to the St. Lawrence. This time, Cartier was to be followed by Jean Francis de la Roberval, and made an effort to find a permanent colony but failed. France itself turned its back to the Canadian experiment for almost 60 years. It was in 1603 that another French, Samuel de Camelin, who perhaps was the first to realize the potential of trade in North America, made his trip to this land. He returned several years later to establish a permanent settlement. He wanted to bring many more people to settle in Canada. The King of France gave his permission to do so, but in return, Champlain was told to develop the fur trade. The French established their colony in 1663 in what is now the province of Quebec and called it New France. It was not long before the England also saw how much money could be made in the fur trade. In fact, England came to realize that the easiest riches of New World were to be found in fur rather than in gold. Thus, it was quick to follow up its claim to the backdoor route to the fur country. The King of England gave Prince Rupert and his partners a charter which gave a company a monopoly. On May 6, 1670, Hudson Bay Company was formed. It was given all the land whose rivers drained into the Hudson Bay, which came to be known as Rupert's Land. Thus, seeking a new route to the rich markets of the Orient, the French and English explorers piled the waters of North America. They constructed a number of posts, the French mostly along the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and the Mississippi rivers, the English around Hudson Bay and along the Atlantic coast. Although explorers such as Cobbett, Cartier, and Champlain never found a route to China and India, they found something just as valuable: rich fishing grounds and teeming population of beavers, fox, and bear, all of which were valued for their furs. In the process of controlling fur trade in the early 1600s began the permanent French and English settlements and increased throughout the century. These settlements, to begin with, were called New France and New England. These were initially dependent on the fur trade, politically and militarily dependent on their mother countries. Inevitably, North America became the focal point for the bitter rivalry between England and France. Here we want to wind up this lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.